Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. For those who don't know me, my name is James Weeks. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Meditations Across the King's River, African-Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. I'm also the personal finance coach for Black executive men, and Black executive men were organization committed to financial empowerment. And today, it's very, very honored to have an Amazon best-selling author here with us, who's also a crypto expert, Eric Guthrie. Eric, thank you so much for taking time out of your hectic schedule to join us today.
Thank you for having me, James. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. So, Eric, before we go into your book, Blockchain or Die, I just wanted to begin by just wanted you to tell us a little bit about your background. What led you into finance? What led you into this space in the first place? And then we'll go into your book and why this is such a pivotal time for us.
Sure. So, first of all, honored to be on your show, and I'm really a big fan of the work that you do with, the meditation and all of the finance. Very important for our community. Um, so, I'm an attorney by trade. I've been practicing law for many, many years, and I had done labor and employment law, and I'd done business law. And in the early 2000s, when the internet came around and became more commercialized, I saw it as something that was really groundbreaking, but I never got engaged with it. I never got involved. So fast forward to 2017, when I learned about Bitcoin. Actually, I learned about 2016 in an Uber. And the guy was telling me how he had used this thing called Bitcoin to buy life and to buy, for gaming and shields and weaponry. And I'm not a gamer, so I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. He goes, yeah, I bought it for a few cents. It went to $50 and I sold it and made a lot of money. And I was like, wow, that was lucky for you. That's a good deal. He goes, yeah, but then it went to like 100 and $200 after that. So I wish I kept my Bitcoin. I would have made more money. I was like, huh, that's interesting. I can't see that being a thing only for gaming, but I never gave it a second thought. So, the very, very end of 2016, early 17, I was at a retirement dinner, and one of the young guys was asking if we learned about Bitcoin. I said, about almost a year ago, this guy in his Uber was telling me about it. He goes, yeah, it's now at 3,000. And I was like, say what? $3,000 per coin? So it goes, yeah, it's all the rage. So that night I went back to my house and I read everything I could read on Bitcoin and also Ethereum. But what I did was I went back and read the original white paper. It's kind of like, why read the story about the Bible when you can read the Bible, right? So I read the original white paper about 7 or 8 times, the Ethereum white paper 7 or 8 times. I barely ate, I barely slept for 3 days. At the end of those 3 days, I was hooked. I was in. I knew I was going to be making heavy moves into this, but not only as an investor, but also as a professional, with my attorney and my training background. So that's what I did. I invested what I could afford to invest. 'Cause I never invest more than I could afford to lose, and I got engaged with the legalities and the training and the consulting side of cryptocurrencies, and now both have actually, elevated me to a certain status because, writing a book, really put me on a lot of platforms. Being one of the few attorneys back in 2017 that was doing it put me on a lot of platforms and in front of a lot of clients, and I've been writing that ever since.
Wow. So your book is the title is so provocative, Blockchain or Die. I mean, if we were to, one could say blockchain or death. I mean, if one wanted to, like, well, blockchain or death. So what prompted it's such a provocative title? Why? I mean, with that title, I feel like, well, there's a sense of like urgency, like, hey,
Exactly.
we
That's
better.
you pulled the words right out of my mouth. Sense of urgency is the way I always describe it. So you hit it right in the head. My first book was actually called Diversify or Die. It's a book about diversity inclusion and how companies that don't diversify their business practices, their customer relations, their hiring practices, their leadership, they're gonna suffer and they're gonna metaphorically die. I mean, some actually do go out of business, right? Um, So that the book did very well. And then I was looking for a title for my second book, and then someone said, the title in the first book was so provocative. It was really it really communicated urgency that I think you should figure out a way to use a second or die, title with your new book. And I would go to book signings, and I would be surrounded by a whole bunch of authors, and everybody would look around all the tables, open my eyes, and they would stop and they say, "Wow, diversify or die. What does that mean?" So I knew then I had a title that if it could stop you in your tracks and pull you over to my table when all the other tables were empty, I knew I had something. So I figured out how to make it in the crypto blockchain space, which is blockchain or die. And that title has done extremely well for me. It's really the sense of urgency, like you said. I mean, you couldn't have said it even any better than if I said it myself. And it tells companies that, this is a multi-trillion dollar industry. Companies that adopt blockchain technology and perhaps cryptocurrencies, are really investing in, looking towards creating business solutions for the future. And the ones that are not. And if you don't evolve to meet the needs of the future as a business, you're not going to survive.
So one of the things that you said on on your website, there's a statement that says, "Do you want to create a future where we profit, or do we look back and regret a once in a generation opportunity?"
Mhm.
Could you talk about this? Because the worry is, as blockchain and crypto expands and explodes as it is doing now, our people, a lot of us will be on the sidelines. A lot of us will be left behind. A lot of us are hesitant. Could you talk to this?
Oh, listen, I could talk this for years. So here is I'll go first. I'll go micro, then go macro. I told you my story about what I missed in the 2000 time frame with the internet and revolution and the dot-com boom and then dot-com bust. But look at Amazon. Amazon was worth, I think, about $30 back then. Look at Amazon now, right? There's plenty of companies that survived that really troubling time, but that's the way it always works. When there's new technology that comes out, there's always going to be winners and losers, and there's going to be more losers than winners. But if you pick the right horse, your horse is going to take you through the roof. So I knew that I had to invest wisely because I knew that I did not want to miss out again. What these things happen about every 20 years. I mean, look at the math. 2008 was the Bitcoin white paper, and it really became an investable asset by 2009 to 2010. So a little less than 20 years, but that's the average. A generation is the average. So what I say to people, especially our community, is, you know, we're at the end of the early adopter phase, but it's not too late to get in and invest. If you do it smart, if you follow the advice that I have in my book, Blockchain or Die, you'll invest in smart companies. If you do your research, if you need to practice paper trade first and get comfortable doing it. One of the biggest bars that people actually getting involved with this is lack of understanding and fear of the technology they don't understand as an investment, right? So I teach you how to do that with my book. And in my next book, which is coming out in the March, April timeframe, which is the sequel to Blockchain or Die, I teach it even more because now there's NFTs, non-fungible tokens, there's the metaverse, the technology is expanding. We are going to look at technology in the future and say, wow, how far have we come in such a short period of time? Because technology moves much faster than almost anything else. And the law, business, legislation, it all has to catch up. But the bottom line is you have to be in it, you have to understand it, you have to use it to be able to profit from it, to make money off of it, to make a business out of it. So you got to get in and start doing it. Don't be scared. Just jump in and do it.
Well, uh, I'll comment on that statement in a bit. I want to pose another question first. So just in November alone, from November to where we are now, we've seen such a massive boom in the crypto space. As you know, there are some projects, some coins that have grown by like 400%, some smaller ones that people don't necessarily know about. Question is, what do you think accounts for this boom, number one? And I also want to ask a question that a member of our community asked me when when I was saying that I'm going to interview you, his question was, well, what's the investment thesis? What what is behind these gains? What has to be true for these potential returns to happen? And I wasn't sure how to respond to his question the best way, so I figured I would ask you that question.
Right. So that's a good and a fair question. Here's why. Um, when you see a market like this just exploding over a short period of time, you know, the answer isn't per coin usually. It's what type of public policy change, what type of overall legal or regulatory changes happen for the rising tide to raise all of the boats. Now, what happened was Trump became president-elect. Now, let's look at the ripple effect. For the past 4 years, Gary Gensler has been the SEC chairperson, and he has really been taking an active role in holding cryptocurrency companies accountable for their regulatory actions or not filing their coins as a security, for their marketing, and for example, using celebrities as a means to attract people to their coin. Like for example, Floyd Mayweather, um, DJ Khaled, even Kim Kardashian. So they were actually fined for endorsing a cryptocurrency, but not disclosing it. They were paid to endorse a cryptocurrency, so they were fined, and so was the company. And of course, when we look at Binance, FTX, which were colossal failures because they really just relied on the market to continue to do well, which all their money was in the market, but when the market tanked, they had nothing left, and their credits was far greater than um the money they had to support it. So they filed bankruptcy, and they were subject to criminal charges. But so Trump becomes president. Gary Gensler is now going to resign as the SEC chairperson, and a new SEC chairperson is going to come in who Trump has basically said is going to be a crypto-friendly person. So what does that mean? That means that SEC actions against cryptocurrency companies are probably going to go down. And for example, Ripple is the one that's had the most impactful case, and the case just ended, right? And the first part of the case, Ripple won on motion to dismiss. The second part of the case, SEC won, but they asked for $2 billion in damages. The judge ordered 125 million. So it's a far reduced, damage than what the SEC wanted. But now the SEC could appeal. Well, guess what? If a new crypto SEC chairperson comes in and they do not want to sue or appeal it, Ripple's legal actions are done. They're basically out of the woods. And you've seen their cryptocurrency go through the roof. Of the top 10 cryptocurrencies on coinmarketcap.com, Ripple's is the one that has increased the most since November 5th. Now, there's another reason why. Ripple has been doing excellent work in making their cryptocurrency used in global commerce. They have deals with Santander Bank. They have groups with banks in Thailand, in Canada, in the UK, in Germany. So they really have a business model. And this goes to the other question. I'm kind of weaving it all together, right? You want to look for a cryptocurrency that has a solid business model, one that makes sense, one that adds value, not one that's just, in my opinion, just a coin with a face on it like a meme coin and really adds no value other than the fact that someone's face on a coin, right? I look for coins that have white papers that are solid, business models that are solid. They have solid fundamentals. They have a strong executive team. They have fairly priced coins, at least at the start. Eventually, you may get priced out of the market. Man, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is almost at $100,000. Now, you don't need 100 grand to buy Bitcoin. You can buy 1 millionth of a Bitcoin. So you can buy $10 in Bitcoin and still own Bitcoin, right? But my point is that all of the things you need to know on how to invest in the cryptocurrency, which one to choose, is right there in front of you. You just have to do the research. And one thing you can do, shameless plug again, is to buy Blockchain or Die, and it will tell you how to do it. The end of every chapter has something called success strategy action items. That has been the most written about, reviewed part of my book because every other crypto book out there just talks theory. It just talks about, generally speaking, how to do this, how to do that. I give you things to do so you can practice. Because when you practice, you get rid of that fear and the anxiety and the uncertainty. And that's when you really begin to use the knowledge that is given to you in the book. When you use it, you begin to learn how to actually invest in cryptocurrencies.
Great question. So how would you explain crypto in the most simplistic way to, let's say, a grandmother stepping into a room? She has, let's say she's 54, whatever. She has, you know, two grandchildren, and she's heard about the crypto space and she's thinking, can this be for me? How would you explain this opportunity to her?
I'll tell you how I do it in every class I teach, right? And here's the funny thing. I was at like a networking reception, when I was writing Blockchain or Die, and someone mentioned that I was a crypto expert writing a book. So a woman asked me, she goes, "Can you explain that to me?" And I was like, it had a drink in my hand, it had some hors d'oeuvres in my hand, and I was like, it's kind of hard to explain this kind of thing. She goes, "Listen, if you're good at what you do, if you're truly an expert, you can explain to me no matter what." I said, "You know what? Challenge accepted." So one of the principles for training somebody in a new theory or new technology or some type of paradigm shift is to use existing items or existing principles and overlay it into the new one. So here's how I do it. Ready? Here we go. If you can understand how a house is bought and sold, how a padlock works, how a dollar works, how a checkbook works, and a cashier works, I can explain blockchain technology, right? So you got the five items, right? The house, the padlock, the dollar, the checkbook, and the cashier. Now, the house, when you buy and sell a house, you get what's called title insurance. And title insurance makes sure that good title is being passed from seller to buyer from the start when the house is built all the way to the last seller to the last buyer. If a title company finds there's a problem with title, if the title is encumbered, they will stop the sale until they're able to figure out what's wrong with the title and fix it, right? So now that whole seller to buyer process is what passes good title. Let's take that house and replace it with a dollar. When a dollar is minted and it leaves the U.S. government and goes to a bank or the Fed and then it goes into the community, right? That dollar has to be tracked in a decentralized environment. A bank's not doing it, the community is doing it. So it's going seller to buyer, and the dollar is being tracked to make sure that dollar is being bought and sold in a legal and with valid security measures. What's the security measure? The padlock of security. Because the bank usually is the one, what we're used to, is the one that really covers all the security for you. You have no clue what security they're doing with your money behind that ATM machine or behind the teller, but they're doing something, right? Now, in this environment, in the decentralized environment, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the community handles the security. And the first thing you do is you get your padlock, and your padlock has your public key and your private key. The public key encrypts the information or the sale transaction. The private key decrypts it. So what does that mean? Liken the public key to your email address, right? I give everyone my email address in order to do business, but I don't give them my password because they can go in and look at all my information, all my emails, and even maybe find passwords to bank accounts or cryptocurrency accounts, what have you. So the padlock is security. Now, all these transactions, remember we went from the house to the dollar, there's $21 million out there with Bitcoin. I mean, actual single dollars, right? Because it's 21 million Bitcoin. How is that all being tracked and recorded? Well, here's your checkbook comes in. And not just your checkbook, it's the ledger in your checkbook. When we used to write checks, because it's pretty rare now, right? You would go in, you would write the name of the person you wrote the check to, uh, the amount you check, the prior balance, and now I managed to check the new balance, right? And that's how you kept track of your account. Well, online banking came around, and the banks did it for you digitally, and then now everything happens with Venmo or Cash App or Zelle or what have you, right? So we use checks far less, but the same principle applies. The ledger is where all the transactions take place. But that's not just your transactions, it's every transaction in the cryptocurrency ledger. So all the Bitcoins, all the Ethereums, all the decentralized are on a global ledger. Anyone can see, anyone can download, and anyone can make sure the transactions are all verified and they're secured. Okay. Now you're saying, well, gee, who processes all these transactions? Well, I liken it to being going shopping as a cashier in the supermarket, right? You go buy, let's use holiday fare. You go buy your turkey, your cranberry sauce, your stuffing. You go buy your sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top, or if you're from the islands, you buy your jerk chicken, you buy your callaloo, you buy your plantain, and you go to the cashier. What good is having all that stuff in your cart if you can't leave a store with it, right? The critical link between the transfer of value in that store is the cashier, right? You give the money, you get the goods, you work out, you have a great Thanksgiving dinner. Well, the same principle applies with cryptocurrencies. It's what's called miners. Miners with the computers and the bandwidth are the ones that process transactions. So without the miner, you would not be able to finalize a transaction because the miner is the one that finalizes it. And the miner gets paid to do that in that cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin, whatever crypto it is. So the house, the dollar, the padlock, the checkbook, especially the ledger, and the cashier is how I explain to people how cryptos and blockchain work.
Beautiful. I want to pause for a moment to find out if our guest, if Kerry, he's in the audience, if he has any questions, and then I'll resume with some questions for you.
Sure.
Oh no, I'm just following along, taking notes.
Okay. So having said that, who would you say, as far as investing go, is for? Because again, this was during a dialogue I was having in our community, and some people were saying, well, what type of investor should be in these assets? And the comment was, you know, crypto is more volatile than the S&P 500. So what type of investor should be in this space, and what are the
Educated,
risks? Okay.
educated. Now, here's why I say that. Everyone knows, well, I shouldn't say everyone. The vast majority of investors know what a stocks are, but the vast, especially 2017, didn't know what a crypto was. You had to learn it. Stocks have been in our society for hundreds of years. The first stock was like in the 1600s. All right. So we kind of grow up learning about stocks. We watch the news, talks about IBM, McDonald's, and the stock went down because of salmonella or Pepsi or now Walmart with pulling back on the diversity initiatives. All those things have an impact on stocks, right? But cryptos have not reached that type of general informational point yet, right? So the first thing you got to do is be educated, because I always say, never invest in anything you do not understand. Okay. And I say it twice. Never invest in anything you don't understand, because if you do, that's the fastest way for you to lose your money. So what I tell people to do is to get educated, learn, practice, read, attend trainings, go watch videos, go to conferences, learn. That's the kind of investor that has a great chance to succeed in cryptocurrencies. That someone that says, "Oh, Dogecoin is doing really well. I'm going to jump in." And the next thing you know, they don't know why it's doing well, and they don't know what the reason why it's doing well, when they should sell, when they should not sell. I've got plenty of stories where people lost a lot of money because they said, "Oh, I'm on the bandwagon. It's doing good. I'm jumping in." There's something called the Fear and Greed Index. And the Fear and Greed Index basically says, when crypto, and they have them for stocks too, but when the market is riding high, that's when things are greedy. You don't buy during a greed phase. When things go down like they always do, there's always a cycle. That's when the fear is, and the fear is like, holy crap, I'm selling because I'm fearful that it's gonna go down, and it goes down. So I buy when I do buy during the fear phase. I either hold or sell during the greed phase. Right now, we're in the greed phase, and I'm not putting one more cent into the market. I don't care how high it's planning on going until I'm comfortable with the fact that we're actually leaving greed. I may sell some of them and go into the fear phase. And when we go into the fear phase, that's when I look to buy. Uh, uh, Berkshire Hathaway has a saying: "Buy when there's blood in the streets." That's when you buy. You don't buy when things are going super high. You buy when things are going super bad, but you have enough research information to show it's going to increase in price again. And that was a stock quote, but it does also apply to cryptocurrencies and other investments as well.
What would you say are like maybe the three major misconceptions that people have about crypto?
That's an excellent question. I think the first one is that it's only used by criminals. Yeah, we've dispensed with that, you know, over 10 years ago, right? There was a point in time where it was being used online on some dark websites where, people were buying very illegal things. They didn't want to be traced back to them, so they used cryptocurrency. But here's the bottom line. So many of our industries that we now view as commonplace became either started or became more popular by criminal enterprises. I'll give you an example. Alcohol, prohibition, right? And then what happened with that? The criminals were swooping up cars to outrun the police cars. What did that become? NASCAR. And of course, why did VHS beat out Betamax? Because which industry adopted VHS? The porn industry, right? So there's plenty of examples where criminal enterprises had to use technology to stay ahead of the current laws and law enforcement, and those actually became part of our a regular part of our society. So there was a point in time, for a short period of time, where where Bitcoin and other cryptos were used for criminal enterprises. The government has caught up, and now they have found out ways to track it. They find out ways to prevent it. They're requiring financial institutions and individuals to track the users before they set up an account or use the crypto. They have to do SARS reports, suspicious activities reports. Um, I advise all my clients to have a really strong compliance program because you do not want to be in a compliance blackout when the government comes knocking, right? So the first misconception is that it's all criminal. The second misconception is that it's a Ponzi scheme, and it's not a Ponzi scheme. Are there some cryptocurrencies that are Ponzi schemes? Of course there are. There's also the number of stocks that are Ponzi schemes, companies that are Ponzi schemes. I mean, look what happened in Connecticut with Bernie Madoff. That was a Ponzi scheme. It wasn't a crypto. It was the biggest Ponzi scheme in history, but it wasn't a crypto. It was actually before even crypto became crypto, right? So two is not a Ponzi scheme. There are some companies doing, like I mentioned, Ripple. They're doing some real good work creating solutions for businesses, for people, for communities. And they're going to actually become, I think, more commonplace names than they are right now. So not criminal, not Ponzi. And the third one, I'd say is another misconception is that it's too late to get in. So I mentioned the first stock was traded. I think it was the Dutch Indian company in 2000 and it's like 1610 around then. So I was at a Morehouse game in New York. The Morse playing Howard, and we were in the suite. So that some folks recognized me for being uh, a cryptocurrency author and so on and so forth. And some guy came up to me and goes, "I'm not investing because it's too late." And I was like, Okay, so I didn't know why he was, saying it to me because, but I said, well, listen, do you buy stocks? He goes, yeah, I buy stocks all the time. I said, when was the last stock you bought? He goes, I forgot the stock. Oh, I bought some last week. I said, well, the first stock was in Dutch India in 1610. Is it too late to buy now? I mean, that was 400 years ago. This is only talking about 10 years. So do not make a comparison it being too late because it's not. A good company with good fundamentals, a good entry signal for you to buy, a good client base, a good executive team. It's never too late. You just want to get in at the right time.
Beautiful. Some people have called crypto this whole as one of the greatest transfers of wealth that we are likely to see.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that?
I do. I do. And here's why. Because it's the first transfer of wealth that's decentralized, right? You don't need to have a bank account. You don't need, I mean, listen, there are some places in the Middle East and parts of Africa where if a woman can open an account without having her husband, her brother, her father, her uncle, some man on the account. Well, guess what? You don't need that with crypto. They can control their own financial future. Or you could be a rural farmer somewhere, hours or days from a bank, and guess what? You can't even open an account because it takes you too long to get there. You might not even have a birth certificate, but guess what? If you got a cell phone and you have Wi-Fi, you can actually, use cryptocurrencies to conduct business, right? So, you know, a lot of companies are finding ways to make money with cryptocurrencies and blockchains that are standard ways of doing it. But there's a whole nother way of doing it with just a cell phone and Wi-Fi, and you could be engaged in a global economy. And it's the first time that has ever been the case. Even back in 2000 with the internet, you need to have a lot more money for a computer and Wi-Fi, right? You need to have that kind of money for investment. Cell phones now are so cheap, you can go to a drugstore and pick one up, and code it in, buy a card, code it in. You got cell service, and you got a means to transact globally now, which you couldn't do before.
Right. So question, as we get ready to enter into 2025, or I mean from a finance standpoint and from a crypto standpoint, what should we be doing as we 2025 is basically next week, so to speak.
Yeah,
It's
it's
but
a month
so
away.
so what should we do? What should our families be doing right now to both to capitalize on this space as well as other opportunities that might be out there? Where should our mindset be? And what should we be doing or not doing?
So that's another great question. The mindset would be to learn and educate yourself. Remember, I'll say it again, never invest in anything you do not understand. And that means that because it's hot right now, don't just jump in, right? Read white papers, talk to experts, go to meetups, go watch YouTube videos, be critical of the information you're receiving. If someone is particularly touting one specific cryptocurrency, why are they doing that? Right? Maybe they're getting paid to do it. Maybe they're an investor and they're trying to get folks to jump in and do a pump and dump. You don't know, but be critical of the information that you receive, right? So if you're not educated, educate yourself. If you are educated, be patient because jumping in now may not be the best time to jump in. Every market has a correction. Every market has a downturn. I invested in a couple of cryptocurrencies in the 20, I guess the 12, 11 time frame, and I bought them at then or an all-time high. And the market corrected and it come down. They still have not got to the point, there's actually two in particular, have not got to the point where they're back to where I invested them, but I'm being patient. And they were down about 80%, both of them, until this recent run up. Now they're down about 30%, right? So, the other a piece of advice, and I'm glad I kind of talked through this, be a long-term investor, right? Well, if you're a long-term investor, it takes some of the risk of the heightened risk of being a short-term investor because you're so desperate to get the money out and make a profit that you don't have time to wait for something to turn around. If I had sold those cryptocurrencies back in the day, I would have lost a lot more money if I sold them right now. And I still believe they're going to hit the mark that they were where I bought them and maybe even make some money. My plan is to sell them when they hit that mark and break even. And I'm perfectly fine with that because the other ones that I bought, even before that one, or even after that one, during a fear period, are doing extremely well, right? So, patience is critical, education is critical, looking in for the right signs is all critical because those three ingredients will improve your chances of success as a cryptocurrency investor.
Beautiful. So I just have two more questions for you. So in addition to your book, what books on crypto or finance do you think we should be reading? You
Are there
know,
other books besides mine? Are there? I thought I was the only one.
yes.
Um, I honestly speaking, I'm not
Uh,
being tongue in cheek about this. I am so engaged with writing my next book. I
Okay.
haven't read another crypto book.
Okay. Fair.
Um, now, um, I'm trying to think of another book that was written that, uh, I mean, and I've met other authors,
Right.
and we've traded books. I'm just so busy. Actually, there's some probably down there right now. I'm just so busy to look for them, to read them that I haven't had a chance to read most of them. But you know what? I will give you this piece of advice. There's a lot of crypto books out there that are not worth their weight in paper. So first of all, if you're looking at a crypto book and it's got big old font and it's got like, 2 or 3 paragraphs per page, don't buy it. If your book doesn't have a bibliography or endnotes, don't buy it because they didn't take the time to actually document the research, if they did research, to be able to put what they put in the book. If there's not a table of contents, don't buy it, right? You want books that are high quality, and high quality books are the ones that really give you the information in a very logical, structured, and professional way. And I mean, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of folks that came by me and I'm at conferences and they say, "Hey, you want to trade my book for your book?" And I look at their book, and I wouldn't buy it even if I wouldn't take it if it was even given to me. I said, "No, I'm good, thank you. I appreciate it, but these books are here to sell. So you're welcome to buy one, but I'm not going to trade. Why? Because it's like going to someone and say, "Hey, can I trade my Honda Civic for your Mercedes?" Who's going to make that trade,
Right.
right? And sometimes I tell them, and say, "Why not?" I said, "Well, listen, this book has a bibliography. It's got table of contents. This book has endnotes. Your book and my book has 3 and 4 and 5 chapters per page at a certain font, at a certain size. Your book has really big font with none of those other things. So to me, it's not a worthwhile exchange. Um, so my advice is if you go on to Amazon, look for books that are highly rated, and look for books that really meet all the criteria that I mentioned. And aside from my book, which by the way, the ebook is on sale for 99 cents on Amazon, you walk away with a book that can give you a lot of good information.
Beautiful. So I have one more question I wanted to ask, and we'll definitely bring you on as a guest when you've launched the other version of your book. What what can we do to start living happier, more fulfilled lives? And the reason why I love to ask this question is because, yes, we're interested in improving ourselves financially, we're interested in creating generational wealth. But from your point of view, what can we do to start living more fulfilled lives, like now, in your point of view?
So I mean, so that's a great question, and I try and live by that example. The first is do something you love. Do a job, do business that you love, because if it's too work, if it's too much work, if it's too stressful, then you're not enjoying your day. You know, you're not really, you don't feel like you're on this earth having fun. So as you know from earlier today, I mean, I'm very involved in my legal work. So sometimes I get hunkered down in there, and I'm so focused, I forget what time it is. But I enjoy it. It's a great mental exercise. Writing these books, writing a 313-page book is a lot of work. But guess what? I love doing it. The next book's going to be just about the same, maybe around in the high twos, the 200 and change, right? Um, that's the first thing. Love what you do, whether it's a business or whether it's a job. The second thing is be healthy, right? Because we have one body, we get one chance, and you want to have the best quiet life you can. So that means eating right, it means exercising, it means meditating and clearing your mind. Mental health as well as physical health is extremely important. And I try and make sure that I have that type of approach. And I find that more productive. I find that I'm in better shape, and I find that I have more peace of mind when both mind and body are in sync like that. Sure, occasionally I'll go out and I'll have too much Uncle Nearest, or I'll but then after that, I cleanse my system. I won't drink for a couple days, and or even sometimes even more than days, sometimes months. I won't touch alcohol. And I take my vitamins, take all the supplements that I think make me a healthier person, and that's how I do that. And the third is my relationship with God, and making sure that I'm praying. My wife and I pray much more than we used to. We find it's been helpful for our marriage. Not that it wasn't good before, but we find that we communicate better, and we talk better, and we listen better when we're praying. When we wake up and before we go to bed, and of course going to church. So those are my three things that I'd say. Loving what you do, taking care of your mind and body, and having a relationship with God. And I think that makes for a more fulfilling life.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for all of your profound messages. And I'm definitely going to go out and get your book, and I'm going to suggest it to others, recommend it to others. Definitely want to have you back on in March or so when you have this other book. But thank you for the work that you're doing. It's so needed. Thank you for your insights, and enjoy the rest of your day. Yes.
Thank you for having me. And to all those that are watching, thank you so much for listening to me really express my passion. So I know I talk fast sometimes. I hope you were able to keep up, but you can find me. Can I get my website?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my website is blockchainordie.org. That's blockchainordie.org, O-R-G. That's the website. You can find me on Facebook at Blockchain or Die. You can find me on LinkedIn at Eric, E-R-I-C, Lance, L-A-N-C-E, Guthrie, G-U-T-H-R-I-E. That's on LinkedIn. I actually write a lot of blockchain-based articles for LinkedIn. So other than buying the book, you can find some of my articles on my LinkedIn page. And on Twitter or X, it's Diversify or Die. And the reason why is because not only am I doing a new book, I'm doing an NFT. And an NFT is a comic strip based on diversity and inclusion. So Diversify or Die on X. So that's how you can reach out to me. And I look forward to engaging with you.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your presence. Definitely
I
appreciate
think, yeah, it seems like I probably should have been here. It seemed like you guys were doing a podcast. Something I was kind of just listening in,
Oh,
but
no,
I
no, no, no.
appreciate you
We
not
invite
kicking me
no,
off.
no, no. We definitely want guests to join us. So no, definitely. We're happy.
It's good to have a model in the middle of all this, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
we need good looking brothers to keep folks interested.
Yeah, maybe a few years ago, but I appreciate the compliment.
yeah. No, thank you so much. It's meaningful to have people going back and forth, and just your presence alone just means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
right.
I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much. All right then. Enjoy your day.